Hey, what's going on, everybody? Max here with BB, and today for 10 Minutes Max, we are going to be talking about Kaspa, one of my favorites. It's been a long time since we've covered Kaspa, and it's certainly overdue. Nothing has really changed for me, right? There's been a lot of volatility elsewhere in the markets. I have a pretty expansive and broad portfolio, so a lot of my attention has been elsewhere, but Kaspa is something that I continue to watch and follow up with. I mean, almost on a daily basis. So I see a lot of people right now on X, as it's now called, emotionally capitulating, where price actually, in my opinion, looks very constructive and coiled and ready for the next leg up. Some of the emotions around where Caspa is would make you think that it is much lower than it actually is. So, I don't want to see people mess it up at the worst possible time, being right before I think things are about to get pretty crazy. So the segment is called 10 Minutes Max, where we deliver you all of your daily alpha in under 10 minutes. That is not going to happen today. You will be delivered your daily alpha, but it will not be in under 10 minutes. One more thing, apologies in advance if I'm a little bit slow today. I've been fighting a fever for like 3 days. So I'm rocking a like 101, 102 fever right now. So we're in Jordan flu game right now. But you know what? Every day is a good day to talk charts. So I have a lot of charts I'm going to share with you guys today, but let's start just with Kaspa USD. All right. And I'm going to add on another one here. So here's Kaspa on the left, and here is Bitcoin basically back in August of 2023. All right. So there's some pretty unbelievable similarities in my opinion. All right. Here, I'll even just I'll label this here. So Bitcoin. All right. Very good. So we're seeing a very similar structure that we've seen before. All right. And I understand it's not fun, just like, this was not fun on Bitcoin. I mean, it's spent well over, I think it was well over 2 months really doing nothing. I mean, just to take a measured move from literally the Pico top, or how about just when we marked up, right? Until when we started to cook upwards again, 116 days. I mean, that's pretty brutal, right? I mean, that would for Caspa take it potentially all the way until June, which it's already May, May 6th, so it's not that much longer. But again, these reaccumulations, they can be, painful emotionally, right? And I guess potentially from a financial perspective, but in my opinion, this is nothing that we haven't seen before. This is, I mean, really, in my opinion, not even really concerning. I would say my only, concern would be if we really definitively lose this low on Caspa, that could be problematic, right? Like you saw Bitcoin, really hold where it needed to. It held that previous demand. I would certainly like to see that for Caspa, right? So what we're seeing right here, it appears to me to be seller absorption. Okay, like there's been a lot of stabs at these lows. Price doesn't really seem to want to budge. Similarly to Bitcoin over here. All right, so I'm watching this very very closely, and what would I expect? Fractals never play out perfectly. Okay, so just take that with a grain of salt. Um, but I mean, Bitcoin when it finally got back above this previous high, it really went on to go crazy, right? As we've seen, here we are now, fast forwarding to present day. So where does the real fun for Caspa begin? It's going to have to get back above 17, 18, 19 cents. But when that comes, I think that the floodgates kind of open. I think this will be looked back upon similarly to Bitcoin in that 30 to mid 20s range as sort of a reaccumulation phase of a lifetime. But while we were here, I mean, it certainly didn't feel like that for Bitcoin. I don't know if you guys remember, but I mean, it was painful. We were here for a long time, and even considering before that, just from a time-based perspective, from when Bitcoin marked up over here, just considering this to be one giant range right here, Bitcoin was here for, I mean, 200 days, over 200 days. That's a long time to sit between 25 and 30. I mean, it sucked. And that's what Caspa is doing right now, in my opinion. So, anyways, things look really good from like just a simple technical perspective. I think that the best is like we are getting really close, guys. We are getting really close. It doesn't mean it's tomorrow, but it doesn't, in my opinion, I don't think you have another 6 months or anything like that. Okay. I think that we are getting quite close. One more fractal. Let's take a look. And you guys have probably seen this. Maybe some of you are newer to the channel, so maybe you haven't seen this before. But this is one of my more popular comparisons that I've seen, people reference with Caspa, and it has to do with I really the only reason I did this initially is I wanted to showcase how a project can interact with fib extensions well in price discovery. All right, and let's see, we'll resave this as Bitcoin comparison. So again, this has nothing to do with like fundamentals, right? Is Bitcoin, is Caspa anything like, Solana? Absolutely not. But the purpose of a fractal is not to highlight fundamentals, it's to highlight sort of the market psychology and adoption of an asset as it rises through the ranks. So let's continue to zoom in here. And of course, fractals are never the same, right? But what we're looking for is to capture the spirit of the move. All right. So it's been a while since we've talked about this. So let me just do a little bit of readjusting here. But here's Solana last cycle, and here's Caspa this cycle, right? And what I did here is I took just real simple. I took from our first major swing high to our first major sell off, and I took again just drew a simple fib extension: range high, mid range, range low, added on the 1.618. 2.618, 3.618. All right. And I did that on both Sol and Caspa. And again, this is Solana last cycle. So why am I sharing these again? It's not to highlight anything other than look at what happens in the early phase of a bull market and how something basically rises through the ranks. So again, we draw our fib extensions. And initially, why did I buy Caspa? Because similarly to Solana last cycle, what did we see? Powerful move up after a reaccumulation. We held the 1.618. You can see clearly flipped it, bounced off of it numerous times, and then went up the 2.618. And what I find unbelievable is that, we globally topped after flipping the 1.618 perfectly. We put in a major high time frame top exactly at the 2.618, and then our global top was precisely almost to the penny at the 3.618. Is it a coincidence? Is it a conspiracy? Certainly not. So where are we at right now? Still holding the 1.618. Maybe we'll get another perfect retest of it. Don't have to, but either way, it's there. I'm expecting this 2.618 to play similarly to what Solana did last cycle. So for Caspa, that's at 35 cents. And then the 3.618 ultimately is at 1.3. And depending on how long this bull market goes, it's certainly possible that we'll have to even draw like a second set of fibs, right? So just because Solana peaked at the 3.618 doesn't mean that Caspa can't do something entirely different. So maybe this is our new set of fibs right here. Like we have to draw another set, or maybe we have to readjust it and go from this impulse down here. And we'll see, right? But preliminary targets as of right now, until more time passes and presented with more information. Initially eyeing down 35 cents, maybe a little deviation above. And then ultimately, I'd like to see, a buck 30 to a buck 50 at least. At least. All right. Now let's talk about some pairs. Okay. Let's talk about some pairs. So actually, let's do this first. So what I'd like to discuss is what typically happens to altcoins, mid cap altcoins, and then we're going to talk about pairs. What happens to mid cap altcoins? Which, by the way, Caspa very much is a mid cap altcoin. I think it's destined to be a lot more than that, but right now in its infancy, which I would still consider it to be in, it is very much so grouped in with mid cap altcoins. What happens to mid cap altcoins when Bitcoin is chopping under the previous cycle all time high? All right, well, let's draw it out. Again, we've previously done some analysis on this, but I think a nice reminder can help. So let's go back and we'll look at last cycle. Okay, so here's Bitcoin, and then here's the previous cycle all time highs marked out. All right. And now what we're going to do here is we're going to throw on ADA from last cycle. Okay. So new pane. We're going to do this live so you guys can see it. All right. We'll put ADA just in all blue. All right. We will also put it in log mode. And then what we're going to do is we are going to move to the existing pane above. All right. And then here's Bitcoin, and we're going to put Bitcoin in all orange so you guys can see this. All right. So this is, we'll mark this out, previous cycle all-time high. And we'll move this all the way to the right and then up top. And I'll actually just copy paste this just to save a little bit of time. All right. Perfect. Perfect, perfect. So let's take a look at what ADA did last cycle, basically right under the previous cycle all-time high. All right. Now we're gonna zoom in a little bit here because I wanna highlight, some of the turbulence that typically happens for mid-cap altcoins as Bitcoin is really trying to find its footing, and with conviction get above the previous cycle all-time high again, which is not uncommon at all. All right. Not uncommon. So here's ADA, which ended up, last cycle, where we're looking at ADA here is ADA was under 10 cents right here. Okay. ADA ended up last cycle topping at $3. Okay. So, I mean, it went up 30x from this point that we're talking about. We're in log mode. So, it it kind of warps how crazy this move was. But where we're watching right here is ADA was at 10 cents, just under. And then again, it went up to $3 at the global top. Okay. And ADA was a mid cap altcoin that showed a great prowess and strength and really became a leader last cycle. Okay. So the point of me showing this again is not to compare Kaspa to ADA. They're nothing alike. The point of me showing you this is what happens to a mid cap altcoin that ended up being, destined for greatness, while Bitcoin is pausing under the previous cycle all-time high. All right. So let me make this font a little bit bigger so you guys can see it. All right. Bitcoin and then ADA. All right. So ADA, basically while Bitcoin was moving up to its previous cycle all-time high, we'll put this in green, trying to get into price discovery. What did ADA do? During that same period of time, ADA was stuck in this giant range right here, doing nothing. Doing absolutely nothing. So Bitcoin went up from, under 10K to basically 20K, and ADA during that same time went from 15 cents down to 7 cents, back to 16 cents above the previous high. You know, what does that sound like, right? What does that sound like, right? So here we are again, right? Here we are looking at, more or less what Kaspa is doing right now. Bitcoin moving up, ADA got smacked, Bitcoin moved up, Kaspa just doing literally nothing in a giant, super annoying range. And then once Bitcoin finally got above its previous cycle all-time high, I mean, look at what happened, right? I mean, look at what happened. Bitcoin finally breaks through, and then ADA goes on to pull a 30x. Okay. Incredible outperformance. Now let's replace ADA with Kaspa. Okay. Or, actually let's just add on another chart. We can keep this up and do this at the same time. All right. It's going to take just a second, but I think we can do this. Yeah, all right. We even have it saved. We're on the same ticker. All right. So again, here is Bitcoin. All right. And now we're going to put up Kaspa down below. Kaspa USD. And you're going to see the unbelievable similarities, right? So we'll change the color. That's not really the right color. This is closer to Kaspa. All right. So now let's, in similar fashion, let's move Kaspa. Put these back on. Now let's move Kaspa up just like we did with ADA. All right, we're going to go to the same time frame. It's never perfect, but I think you'll see the point. All right. So as similarly to last cycle, as Kaspa, or I'm sorry, as Bitcoin was moving up to its previous cycle all-time high, what have we seen this time around? All right, so here's Bitcoin moving up aggressively to its previous cycle all-time high. We've been here just chopping, chilling, ranging. I mean, it's very annoying, right? But everything looks fine. What's Kaspa been doing from that same point? Literally nothing, right? Just chopping everybody up, super annoying. Everybody's capitulating on it, giving up on it, Same exact thing happened last cycle, guys. Same exact thing happened last cycle to ADA. So again, it's not going to be perfect, right? But you understand, what happens when Bitcoin is in this phase right here, this chop and bleed under the previous cycle all-time high. What happens to mid-cap altcoins? They just do nothing. They just do nothing, and it can be very, very frustrating. So again, this is just to highlight, like ADA went on to pull a 30x. Okay. ADA literally went on to pull a 30x when Bitcoin from this point went on to pull about a 2.5x. All right. So what if Bitcoin, goes to 120K and Kaspa pulls a 30x from here, you know? But you're going to emotionally capitulate in this range, which is what always happens to mid cap altcoins during this phase of the cycle. I'm not saying it's a guarantee. I'm just saying this is what is happening, right? Like this is why we're not doing anything. This is why price is stuck here, frustrating everybody. So again, you liked Kaspa at 15 to 19 cents. You should love it here at 10, given what's happening. I mean, this might be your last chance to really back the truck up. I mean, I'm serious. It might be. So again, Kaspa's at 11 cents right now. ADA, again, even similar price, right? ADA was at around 11 cents last cycle before it went to $3. You think Kaspa could go to $3? It took Bitcoin, Bitcoin had to pull a 2.5x for ADA to go up 30x. You think Bitcoin has another 2.5x in the tank? We'll see. Let's talk about some pairs. All right. Yeah, we're already at 17 minutes. We're going to go long today. This pair is Kaspa Bitcoin. All right. So just a quick little refresher for everybody. If this chart's moving up, Kaspa is a better hold than Bitcoin. This chart is moving down. It's the opposite. Bitcoin's a better hold than Kaspa. So again, looking at this pair can help you, really feel comfortable with the idea of why would I hold Kaspa, which looks to improve upon the characteristics and find inspiration from Bitcoin if it's not outperforming Bitcoin. Well, it certainly is over the long term, but short term, we are most definitely in a reaccumulation pattern. So again, it's not going to be perfect, and this is kind of like a little busted up chart, but what I'm really focused on here is this previous point of origin. All right. So this area right here is really important. This little red box that I have highlighted. And the reason for it is whatever happened in here ultimately led to this big move to the upside. So this is previous demand. There was a lot of buying that happened right here, clearly. And then we get a monster move up, huge expansion. So it's not uncommon to see a previous point of origin after a very aggressive expansion to the upside come back and get retested. So in my opinion, that's more or less what we're seeing right now is the Kaspa Bitcoin pair coming back to retest this point of origin. Certainly not fun. We don't like to bleed or whatever, but this was also a very thin move right here. And by thin, I mean there were gaps in this chart, like a lot of inefficiencies, like all of these FVGs right here, like there's so many. I mean, even going back to here, like here's an FVG. I could literally draw them all over the place. Like here's an FVG. I mean, the whole move was an inefficiency, right? Like every little step up, like we never came back to fill in any of these voids. Like all of this, I mean, this is a big one, right? Just to give you like another example, but like huge inefficiency, right? Like no wicks covering that. Typically these get cleaned up. And what we've seen now is this has gotten, more or less completely cleaned up. I would probably keep an eye on, this high. This will eventually play. In my opinion, this is some sort of like bullish channel or something. I mean, it's not, I wouldn't put too much weight into it, right? Like I would say more just like study the high time frame level. Like this is really important, this red box. But yeah, I mean, keep an eye on this eventually. Like I think it's going to break to the upside. So that's Kaspa BTC. Here's Kaspa ETH again, very, very similar, very, very similar. So again, looking at this previous point of origin, potentially could dip into that. Just because it's there doesn't mean you have to. But I mean, generally, like Kaspa ETH, it looks pretty good in my opinion. Like, I mean, locally, I would be looking at this right here for some sort of like local time frame PO3 where this is a local accumulation, and then this move would be a deviation right here. And then ultimately, we would reclaim this line and probably get some, serious expansion to the upside. So, short term, it doesn't matter too much, like just to be clear, but I just can't help but see that. Like as long as this blue box ultimately holds, even if we do move down a little bit, I think we're in deep discount territory, like especially given, given the previous setup that we looked at, which was, where was it? Yeah, right here. Like what happens to, mid cap altcoins when Bitcoin is just kind of chilling out here before it really starts to move up. Um, I just view this reaccumulation against Ethereum and then also Bitcoin as truly, truly tremendous deep value. I really do. It's pretty unbelievable. So anyways, we're actually going to pop over to another site here now. This is an awesome free website. Um, Forgive me, I don't know who made this, but anyways, it's great and it's free. So I can link that down below. It's kasping.streamlit.app. And it's got some probably familiar looking indicators for Kaspa, some of which you've probably seen for Bitcoin before. But here's a rainbow chart. So basically, it's a logarithmic regression curve that more or less attempts to show you when price is very discounted on the higher time frame versus potentially a little bit overbought. So we've seen these play with Bitcoin before. They're never perfect, right? But it can be a pretty nice loose guide. We'll just click about this model here. So this is what I assume the author wrote about it. So this model calculates the linear regression on the log scaled data, and then creates an envelope around the price action for the date specified. It is a gross simplification, as the middle band is not, in all bold, the fair price as dictated by power law, but just middle between the lowest and highest regression lines. Also, both support and resistance lines have the same slope. A proper model should find a separate fit for the bottoms and tops. To view such a model, check this, and watch a more complex rainbow chart, go here. So anyways, this is kind of a loose guide, right, as mentioned, but either way, it's been holding previous price action pretty well. And again, I am expecting price for crypto to more or less just across the board, not Kaspa specific, to be pretty solid all the way through at least Q2 and most of Q3. And that's a whole other discussion, right? But I'm expecting some sort of big pullback later this year, like probably September, October, November ish. So basically just looking at that time, what could potentially be possible according to this model would be the upper band or upper region, price hitting around, a buck 30 to a buck 50 sometime, this year, if assuming we go up to this red band again. But, it's never perfect. Just like we saw Bitcoin's initial rainbow charts not being perfect either. So, on top of that, there's one other one here. Power law. So this is, we'll put it in log mode. So this is really great as well. So this basically, just in the simplest of terms, I'm not going to be the best at explaining this. We can read what this says down here, and then we'll talk about what this chart is telling you. About the chart, you might find it surprising to see the predicted value fluctuate. Typically, power law charts depict the fair price as a constant straight line on log charts because they are curve fitted on the past data for best fit. However, this doesn't reveal past predictions, which is crucial for assessing the reliability of these forecasts. This chart is designed differently. It shows predictions as they would have been made using all available data at each point in the past. The goal is to demonstrate the degree to which power law predictions can vary, giving you insights into their consistency. Okay. So again, what this is showing you is kind of when Kaspa enters a bubble, its actual price, predicted next day price, and then red down below is the difference in percentage. So what I'm really interested in is sort of where historical bottoms have formed. And I don't believe I can draw on this, but you can really just kind of use your eyes and take a look at it. Like back here in October, end of October, you can see that this red line over here, the difference percent, was really, really aggressively low, minus 60%, minus 60% plus. It's very small. It's hard to see, but the little, right down at the bottom, where it says the date, you can see there's a number there as well. You probably can't see it, but minus 60. Okay, so Kaspa in October was basically at its rock bottom floor. Okay, again, right over here, minus 55, rock bottom floor. May of 2023, minus 56%. Again, rock bottom floor. Where are we at right now? Again, so minus 47%, May 5th. My opinion, you're pretty damn close to rock bottom floor, if not completely there already. So, again, this is historically, again, according to power law right here, power law predictions and this available data, you are again as another point of confluence, sort of in that deep value territory. Okay, deep value. So just wanted to show that it's a great site. Again, nothing is perfect, but I think added confluence for some of the other technicals that we're looking at here. I think it can be pretty solid. So I actually bought more Caspa today. I told our Discord about it earlier. Scooped some at about 11 cents. So, I'm basically fully positioned, but I think it looks really solid here. But that's kind of it, guys. Like I know this is a long video, but in my opinion, Caspa looks really good. But thanks so much for tuning in here, guys. Before you go, please consider liking and also subscribing. Check out the first link in the description below where you can sign up for our Discord. Within the next basically month, you're going to get free access to the BB terminal included in your Discord subscription. And again, what you can expect with the Discord subscription right now currently is over 2 hours a day of private live voice calls with me and the Because Bitcoin team, where we do Q&A and we share private setups, premium analysis that we don't talk about here on YouTube or on X. So really tremendous value. And again, we get to communicate constantly. You get to see behind the curtain on how we operate as a team. So truly, you will not find another service like what we are doing. It is unparalleled. Second link in the description below will get you access to the BB Academy, which is basically our new flagship masterclass. We spent over 6 months building this thing out. If you want to expedite your journey into understanding the arts of TA and FA, we can save you a lot of time in understanding that. There's a lot of people out there teaching the wrong things. We've bundled you together all of the right things, okay? And it's in a very affordable, easy to digest package. So again, if you want to learn how I approach markets and the rest of because Bitcoin team approaches markets, definitely consider checking out the second link in the description below. But guys, thanks so much for being here. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe, and we will see you next time. Take care.